Hey folks, remember when President Trump shook things up in the auto industry? It was back in insert year, sometime between 2017 and 2019, and the world took notice. Trump signed an executive order, a big one, aimed right at car manufacturing. This wasn't just about tweaking a few rules, this was about bringing jobs back to America, boosting our economy, and making sure American workers were building American cars. Now, you gotta understand, the auto industry is huge, a global giant. For years, foreign car companies had built factories here in the US, creating jobs, sure, but also taking advantage of lower costs. Trump's order changed the game. It sent a clear message. If you want to sell cars to Americans, you better be making them on American soil. The impact was immediate. Car companies around the world scrambled to figure out what this meant for them. Would they have to close factories overseas? Build new ones here? The stakes were high. This wasn't just about cars. It was about jobs, the economy, and the future of American manufacturing. The order sent shockwaves through the global market. Stock prices fluctuated, analysts made predictions, and everyone waited to see how the industry would react. One thing was certain, the American auto landscape was about to change forever. The executive order was just the beginning. It paved the way for Trump's signature initiative, American Cars for American Drivers. This catchy slogan captured the essence of the policy to revitalize the American auto industry by putting American workers and American-made cars first. The goal was simple: encourage, or some might say, force, car manufacturers to produce vehicles within the United States. The idea was that by increasing domestic production, the policy would create jobs, boost the economy, and reduce America's reliance on foreign manufacturers. It was about bringing back the glory days of American manufacturing, when Detroit was the undisputed car capital of the world. The initiative included a mix of carrots and sticks. There were tax breaks and incentives for companies that built factories and created jobs in the US, but there were also tariffs, those extra taxes on imported goods, designed to make foreign-made cars more expensive. The message was clear: if you wanted to sell cars to Americans, you were better off building them here. This was music to the ears of many American workers, especially those in the industrial heartland who had seen their jobs disappear overseas in previous decades. For them, it was a sign that America was finally putting its own workers first. Now, you can imagine, this policy didn't sit well with everyone. Foreign automakers, especially those heavily invested in manufacturing outside the US, faced a tough choice: adapt or risk losing their share of the lucrative American market. Some companies decided to double down on their American investments. They announced plans to build new factories, expand existing ones, and hire more American workers. They knew that to compete in the new landscape, they needed to have a strong presence on American soil. Others tried to find loopholes or negotiate exemptions. They argued that suddenly shifting production to the US would be costly and disruptive. They warned of job losses in their own countries and higher prices for American consumers. Some even threatened to pull out of the US market altogether. The reaction from foreign governments was mixed. Some, like those in Europe and Japan, expressed concerns about protectionism and the potential for a trade war. Others saw it as an opportunity to renegotiate trade deals and secure better terms for their own industries. Economic nationalism, putting America first. Trump's American Cars for American Drivers initiative wasn't just about cars. It was part of a broader economic philosophy known as economic nationalism. This approach emphasizes protecting domestic industries and promoting American jobs. He promised to put America first in all economic matters. Proponents argued it was necessary to protect American jobs from foreign competition. They believed bringing back manufacturing could restore economic strength. The consumer caught in the crosshairs. While the policy debate raged on, there was another group caught in the middle: American consumers. They were the ones who would ultimately decide the success or failure of American Cars for American Drivers. The question was, would they be willing to pay the price? One of the biggest concerns was that the policy would lead to higher car prices. With fewer foreign cars available and domestic manufacturers facing less competition, there was a risk that prices would rise, making cars less affordable for the average American. Another worry was that the policy would limit consumer choice. With a greater emphasis on American-made cars, consumers might have fewer options to choose from, especially if they preferred foreign brands or models not produced in the United States. This could mean having to settle for cars that didn't meet their needs or preferences. The policy also raised questions about innovation and quality. Some argued that by reducing competition, the policy might stifle innovation and lead to a decline in the quality of American cars. Without the pressure to compete with the best in the world, American manufacturers might become complacent, they argued. A new road ahead, the future of the auto industry. As the dust settled from the initial shockwaves, the American auto industry began to adapt to this new reality. The landscape was shifting, with both challenges and opportunities emerging for domestic and foreign automakers alike. For American car companies, this was a chance to reclaim their dominance in the market. With a renewed focus on domestic production, they could invest in new factories, expand their workforce, and develop innovative new models designed specifically for American consumers. Foreign automakers, meanwhile, faced a choice: adapt or risk being left behind. Some rose to the challenge, investing heavily in American manufacturing, while others struggled to adjust, their market share dwindling as American consumers embraced domestically produced vehicles. The industry as a whole underwent a period of transformation. Supply chains were reorganized, manufacturing processes were streamlined, and new technologies like electric vehicles and autonomous driving were rapidly adopted to meet the evolving demands of the market. Global ripples, a world transformed. The impact of American cars for American drivers extended far beyond the borders of the United States. It sent ripples throughout the global economy, influencing trade relations, manufacturing policies, and the automotive industry worldwide. Other countries, inspired by the American example, began to reconsider their own trade policies. Some implemented similar measures to protect their domestic industries, leading to a rise in economic nationalism around the world. The global auto industry experienced a period of uncertainty and adjustment. Manufacturing hubs shifted as companies relocated production facilities to comply with new regulations and capitalize on emerging markets. The balance of power in the industry was in flux, with new players emerging and established giants adapting to survive. The long-term consequences of American cars for American drivers remain to be seen. Whether it ultimately strengthened the American auto industry, revitalized the economy, and achieved its intended goals is a subject of ongoing debate. One thing is certain: the policy left an enduring mark on the global automotive landscape, ushering in a new era of competition, innovation, and uncertainty.